how is the Ukraine crisis reverberating in your neck of the woods in the Balkans? I mean, I asked because I was struck by the response the Russian Foreign Ministry had to your Prime Minister's visit here to Washington. I think it was some 2 or 3 weeks ago. And he called for a bold start in further Euro-Atlantic integration. And the Russian Foreign Ministry described that statement as hostile. How is the crisis in Ukraine, how is Russian policy affecting security in your region?
Well, first of all, I think that we need to remind on and you've done that in a certain way, of what just minutes ago Secretary Kerry said by saying that in past 65 years there's been no other institution, no other organization that has brought more security, freedom, or human rights than NATO. It was even at certain points a sort of a backstop for the prosperity of the European integration process in Europe. Our view is that if we want NATO to play the same role in time to come, then along with sticking to defense budgets criteria or promoting energy cooperation, free trade and so on, there has to be a clear commitment to the open door policy in our region. Because certainly Europe cannot be, in our view, whole, free and at peace unless countries from the Western Balkans who want to become part of the NATO really become part of the NATO. And we realize, and it's fair to say that it is a two-way street. It's not only that member states should sit one day and say, well, you know, because of this or that crisis, let's just enlarge. All the countries need to be judged by their own merits. And even if there was no Ukraine crisis, we would still be arguing that our very clearly set strategic priorities, referring to Montenegro, of eventually becoming part of the EU and part of the NATO, are in the best national interest of Montenegro. It is in the best national interest of the region, and it should be the best interest of the NATO also, given that strategic considerations also suggest that, in order to make Northern Mediterranean NATO collective the security system whole and fully functioning, Montenegro should be also inside. And it can also serve as an excellent encouragement to all other aspiring countries who may think about working the best efforts to try to also join the alliance. And it is a two-way street because we are aware that there's been a lot of things that we should do. There's been four key areas in which, according to our view, we've made significant progress. There is progress in the field of the rule of law. There is progress we're making in our defense system. Our soldiers have been taking part in a number of peacekeeping missions around the world, including ISAF, in order to show how interoperable they are, that they have reached important standards. There is also work in progress in order to further improve our intelligence, because it's an important standard when your country wants to be part of the alliance. And plus, there is also an ongoing active engagement of ours in talking to our people to explain why there is so many assets of being part of the collective security system. All of that together, put together, should at some point suggest that Montenegro is ready. We believe that we are good enough to be assessed, but and objectively assessed, we believe that we could continue the process of rounding off this whole system when referring to the security alliance and the Western Balkans. And plus, if you consider the invitation extended to Montenegro, for example, the next summit, that doesn't mean that we should just then sit back and relax. It will take at least 2 more years to become a full-fledged member state, because there is a process to follow. And in those 2 years, there is also enough of space to do many other things. So by doing all of that, I think again, and I'm coming back to the main point, is that there is an excellent chance to further, by committing to the open door policy, we all together further improve the security, the stability of our region, and then in a way preempt any future crisis, any new different threats to appear, because our system altogether, our joint system, would perform in a better and more solid way.
Minister Lukšić, I'm going to throw the same question to you. Do you share that position? What would Montenegro be? And granted, you have a very small military, but are you willing to make that symbolic contribution or small operational contribution?
Yeah, and you suppose that NATO will make the decision of organizing a mission or something like that?
Well, NATO has. I mean, there are NATO contingents going into the Baltic Sea. We're beefed up operations for air policing.
For what reason? Because Secretary Kerry said that they want to prove the allegiance to Article 5. Mm-hmm. So the point is, as far as I read it, but I guess Cristiano Dittmer are better to read that because they're NATO member states. The point is to show that the alliance agreement is there to stay. So if anybody threatens to take away a piece of a NATO member state, then has to be faced with very grave consequences. So we are showing the commitment to the alliance. Ukraine is not a member state of the NATO. Mm-hmm. And we've heard every now and again that nobody thinks about any sort of a military solution. So what we're talking here about is that in order to, from the security point of view, if we'd like to fully consolidate Europe South, I mean referring to Western Balkans, then our argument is that the cheapest way to provide NATO a major contributor to bringing to the vision of Europe whole and free, bringing more security, more freedom, more political stability, more values that both EU and NATO are based on, then the cheapest way is to commit to the open door policy in an effective way. And Christian has already said, there will be a couple of reports referring to all the aspiring countries. We believe we have done really a lot. And it doesn't mean that the next day after the invitation we'll just, fall asleep. No, we'll have to work more in order to be able to really fully respond to all the benchmarks until the day we're a member state. But the point is not that particular milestone or that particular date. The point is that any moment after our full-fledged membership, we are able to contribute the way we should contribute to the alliance's goals. So that's how I interpret the current situation.